to the latest edition of An Evening with Movement Radio. We have a special guest today from the Warrior Workout Network, Sean Rooker. Sean,
hey,
how's it going, man?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me on the show today. I just listened to my first episode the other day, and I'm already a big fan, so it's just awesome to be here.
We appreciate that, man. Thank you so much for coming on and joining us. How exactly did you know Roger? Because I know Roger was the one that hooked this interview up for us. So how exactly?
So a long time ago, long time ago, 10 years ago, I was coaching high school rugby at McMinn High School, and Roger was part of the first McMinn rugby team, high school rugby team, and I was his coach, and that's where it started. You know, we believe that rugby is family, so 10 years later, here we are, and we're still keeping in contact with each other, and obviously still checking in on each other and making sure everybody's still okay. It's how we do things.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Oh, man, that's awesome. I'm a huge rugby fan. I have no idea what the rules are, but I think it's cool as hell to watch.
Hey, you know, that's the thing is with, you know, American football, there's so many rules. And I think that you can really relate, in a way, rugby to wrestling. There's so few rules that we get confused by it. Long story short, I took my nephew to one of your wrestling events, and he was you know, expecting a boxing match, and one of your guys came out and just jump kicked a dude right in the face, and he was like, "Hey, you can't do that. That's not legal."
Sorry. That's some shit I'd do, actually.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes. Oh, man. Of course, my computer doesn't update right now. Maybe we'll get to it. Sorry.
Don't worry about the Cowboys game right now. Don't matter. They both suck.
I'm not worried about that.
Well, Sean, how about you tell our listeners a little bit about who you are and what the Warrior Workout is?
Well, you know, guys, we're just very real dudes at the network. We started our mission. The Warrior Workout Network started as trying to stop the or halt or fight the mental health epidemic and, you know, suicide rates and obviously the obesity level in veterans. Almost 60% of veterans are obese and considered obese. And that's because a lot of the medications that they're on, it messes with their metabolism, it messes with their drive, their get up and go. I mean, so we're trying to focus on trying to get them to be healthy without all the medication. And you know, we promote.
That's awesome.
Well, exactly. Yeah, man. You know, it's and we're branching out now into a thing called redefining a warrior, which is we are no longer focusing on just veterans. We are actually branching out to everybody because we're all at our own battlefield. And you don't have to be a veteran to earn your battle patch, as we call it, and earn your battle scars. So now we are in the arena of telling stories of everyday people, everybody, and what they go through and how they overcame their hard times and giving strength to others.
That's great, man.
That's all.
Was there a particular story
with?
You guys are talking over each other again.
It's Movement Radio. It wouldn't be Movement
We
Radio
have
if
a
we
bad
weren't
habit.
talking over each other.
Yeah.
Was there one particular story that maybe you had heard that maybe stuck with you the most?
Oh,
we're getting heavy right out the get-go.
No, dude, good. You know, wow. There's been, honestly, I'll tell you, man, there's been a lot of episodes. It took all of my emotional bearing to get through them. I've heard stories of guys coming back from just, you know, almost drinking themselves to death to running 7 marathons in 7 days. We've talked to, we have a good partner, Dr. Chris Ann Gordon, She's one of the leading doctors in traumatic brain injuries in the country. She actually fell off a ladder and busted her head and was trapped in her. She couldn't talk. She couldn't do nothing. She was trapped in her own head for months and months, and slowly had to work back from that to where she's a practicing doctor again, neuroscientist. I think I don't want to really say that one story's greater than the other, because each one of our episodes allows us to give our listeners insight into individual struggles. We've had people come on and talk about racism. We've had people come in and talk about growing up poor and all the things that they went through as a child. And we've had people come on and talk about sexual abuse. We've had people come on and talk about the Iraq War, Special Forces guys. Every single one of those stories has an independent topic in there that hopefully our listeners can apply to their life. I didn't grow up how you guys grew up. All I can do is try to understand where each individual guy in this group comes from. Your individual stories could give me strength and help me through dark times, and that's how we look at it.
That's awesome, man. We're all about like reaching out to people that we see that are kind of struggling and trying to help them and pick them up. I personally have a few friends that are dealing with mental illness, depression, anxiety, PTSD, and I try to, at least once a week, once every other week, just kind of shoot them a message and say, hey man, how are you doing? Hey, I'm here if you need to talk or something like that. So, man, just thank you. As a veteran myself, thank you for doing that for the veterans. I really appreciate that from the bottom of my heart.
Amen. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Well, guys, here I am on your show, and we're trying to promote mental health and good vibes and all the good things. I mean, we're all just trying to find a way through this. I think at the end, it's accountability to each other. I am my brother's keeper, and it's important that the people around us know that we care about them, that we love them. That's a weird word that people are scared to use, but I tell my brothers all the time that I love them and that they're wanted and needed in this world. And it's an important mission, man. And I appreciate what you guys are doing.
Right. You mentioned the word love and how maybe in a lot of people's minds, love is a dirty word in some people's minds. We actually did an episode recently about the band Shinedown in a retrospective of their career, and one of the songs that we talked about was a song called "How Did You Love?" And that's one song that I always go back to, just whenever you're having, whenever you see all the chaos in this world, and it's like, how do you leave your mark on this world to make it a better place? And it goes back to the original question that's asked in the song, and that's how did you love? And I think that that's the one thing that anytime, like if you listen to any conversation you have with someone, you always try to, lead with love, you know what I mean? And you don't want people to, you don't want to be angry or bitter, with anybody, because especially this year, especially in the year 2020 and how crazy it is, you legitimately do not know if today's going to be your last day.
Yeah. And you make a great... Go ahead, Chip.
I was going to say, I seen a thing the other day. I say the other day, it was probably a couple months ago though. And it said, tell your friends you love them to the point that it becomes awkward. Like just continuously say, hey man, I love you. And as somebody who kind of grew up in a single parent family, that was one of the things my mom always, before I walked out the door, like when I woke up in the morning, it was good morning, I love you. Before I walked out the door, hey, I love you. Before I go to bed at night, hey, I love you. And it's just kind of one of those things. And I think as males, as men, that's one of those things. It's kind of taboo per se, but I think we should maybe make it a mission to make it not so taboo, because in reality, like Talon and Roger, like I love them. They are my family.
Yeah.
You know, you. I mean, we may have just met, but I love you as a human being. I love you as, a person. So I don't understand why it has become taboo to tell the people that you actually care about, hey, I care about you. I love you. So.
Well, it can, and man, that's for everyone listening right now, and they're like, these guys are talking about love. It's important. I had an issue. This happened a couple years ago. I actually had a guy I served with in Iraq. He was a medic. I'm not going to mention his names, but this is a situation that happened where he was dealing with depression and obviously pain, and was lashing out at people. And long story short, him and I got into an argument. And instead of looking past my nose, I went into this defensive mode instead of actually trying to find out what was going on with him, and him and I got into it. And it's funny because I was talking about this earlier today, and now it's coming up again. But long story short, him and I got into a verbal disagreement, very strong verbal disagreement, and then he committed suicide. And looking back at that, instead of getting in an argument with him and going into some kind of, I got to defend this statement or whatever, right? I should have just shut up and said, brother, what's wrong? I love you. And I think that if maybe that conversation went that way, instead of me reacting like most people would have reacted, maybe he'd still be here.
I see where you're coming from with that, but I mean, at the same time, you have to realize that that wasn't your fault at all. But I know where you are in that. Think, what could I have done? What could I have done differently? What could I have done better? Maybe if I had handled that situation differently, maybe if I would have handled that situation better, he would still be here. And in reality, you just can't know that, and you can't live with that regret.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, a friend of mine.
I'm not trying to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Talon. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say that I had a cousin who committed suicide. This was back in, I think, 2008 or 2009, and she just committed suicide in her father's garage. And the day before, she had talked to my cousin, and she something to the effect of she wanted him to come pick her up, but he said he couldn't do it. And then she ended up committing suicide. And to this day, and I've seen him several times since then, and you can look in his face and you can tell to see that he's still in pain. Even 12 years later, he still has that thought process of, why didn't I go over there and pick her up, and it again, it's something that he blamed himself, but in actuality it wasn't his fault, but he still blames himself because, like, if I had went to her, would she still be here? Yeah. And I think that's the thing that eats up everybody, especially when it comes to mental illness. And I think all of us have had those feelings of, maybe not suicide, but those feelings of being unloved, being unwanted, feeling like you're not good enough. And eventually, we either overcome it, or it gets debunked because you see the love that people do have for you, and even still to this day, and it's sad because I see him. Last time I seen him was about 3 or 4 months ago at a gas station just right down the street where I live, and he was smiling, but you could tell that you could tell he was still hurting. And I think that the pain of that has lasted all these years, and it's almost like it's not that people haven't forgiven. I don't think he's forgiven himself for that yet.
Yeah, I mean, and you guys make good points. You can't carry the weight of someone else's personal decision. We can try to help as much as possible, but if someone decides to make that choice and you're not around, and there's nothing you can do about it, and it's sad. And that's what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to promote mental health, and we're trying to get people to realize that in those dark times, I think people generally know that they are special. Everyone has their own awesome story that can inspire others. It's just in those really dark times that we say to ourselves, why am I here? What am I doing? I'm not where I wanted to be in life. Maybe I let myself down, I let my family down. But the whole point is, this is something that came up the other day, is struggle is not losing. Just because you're struggling does not mean you're losing. Struggle means that you're still in the fight, and until you hear the bell ring, man, you just got to keep going out there. So for all you guys and gals that are out there struggling, you're still in it. You're not losing because you're still breathing. So keep going.
Oh man, I love that statement. Struggle is not losing. I love that. I'm going to use that.
Yeah. That's going straight to the radio Facebook page. That's where that's going.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yes, for sure.
Might want to put that on the Christmas card.
Talking about raising awareness and raising funds and everything. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the comedy show you did over Thanksgiving weekend?
Yeah, so we partnered with Resurrecting Lives, which is the Dr. Gordon, who I told you about. We partnered with Thank You for Your Service. We partnered with 3 comedians: Rob Will, Longhorn the comedian, also his real name's Vernon Davis, and Jordan Brady. And we put on a comedy show for Gold Star families, families who've lost somebody in combat. And we and it was because of COVID, obviously it had to be a virtual show. It was through Zoom. We had several hundred people log in. We were able to raise some money. It was free tickets, but donation based. People could donate whatever they wanted, and it gave an hour and a half of laughter to people who deserve to laugh. They need some laughter, maybe, and hopefully,
medicine.
Yeah, man, laughter is the greatest medicine, and hopefully we were able to provide enough funds to help some families out, and that's what it's all about, man. Is just trying to find a way to give back.
That's awesome. I was going to say earlier, I just finished a campaign with Mission 22, where I partnered with them to do 22 push-ups a day for the entire month of November. So I did that, and I raised some money for that cause. Felt really good. Just being able to do, the push-ups. It's probably the most push-ups I've done since I got out of the military, for sure. But just the deep down feeling that I was able to help somebody else in their time of need, and for me, that, I don't know, that outweighs everything,
And I agree with you, man. I think that and you guys are doing a great job with what you're doing here. I know you have a lot of listeners, and you've been putting out a lot of content, which is great. People know when something is real. Right. The commercial side of the unrealistic things that we see in the commercial side of stuff. Your podcast, our podcast, we focus on being real, and people see that, and people support that, because when you're real with your listeners, they can relate to you. They know that you're a human being and not some fictitious person that probably isn't real. We all have that face we put on, to show the public so that we can get through our day and stuff like that. This is us being real. This is us allowing people inside of who we are, and your listeners gain strength through it. And they see that realness, and it's only going to build from here, guys. You guys are going to go through the stratosphere, man. This is a great mission you guys have here.
Really?
We appreciate that, man. Thank you very, very much for that. We really appreciate it. Tell us a little bit more about the podcast that you're doing right now. And tell us like how exactly it came about. Like, how did you get the idea to do the podcast in the beginning stages?
Well, I think that if you're meant to do something, no matter how much you struggle to not do it, it'll happen anyway.
I definitely know that.
Yeah, well, it's a rule of thumb in professional wrestling. The one thing you end up doing is the one thing you didn't think you would do. So, yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's I got started. Honestly, the only reason why I even got involved in podcasts and involved with the Warrior Workout Network, COVID hit. It totally shut down all rugby and all that stuff. I was still coaching high school rugby at the time. And for years, my buddy Andrew Young, he's the president of the Warrior Workout Network. I deployed with him to Iraq. He was in my platoon. And he just, for years, hey, man, I'm doing this thing. Get involved. You got any time? I'm like, I don't have any time. I don't have any of this. COVID hit. Bam, I have all this time. And then he slowly, hey, you want to come on a podcast as a guest? I said, sure. I got involved. We got a couple more listeners. He had me as a guest again. It started getting more. I started being a regular, and then it turned into what we have now. We actually have a veteran organization, and we're doing podcasts, and we're raising money for people. And I'll just be real with you guys. I was sitting there one night, and he sent me a text, and he said, you fought me, and you fought me, and you fought me. And I just, ha, ha, ha. And he said, I got you now, motherfucker. So that here I am, and honestly, I think you guys, with all the hard work you're putting into your podcast, I think you feel the same way. Having such an outreach that this provides, and for the testimonials that people may tell you about and be like, you really helped me through this, or I can empathize with this situation, or I can sympathize, or I was in that. It's the first time since I was in the Army that now I feel like I'm serving again at a larger scale, and I'm helping people. I mean, just multiplying every day, and I stay humble with that, but that it just turned into this thing now, man, and we're helping people, right? So that's what it's all about.
Right.
Yeah, you've mentioned it a couple times. If you don't mind, tell us a little bit about your military experience. You said you were in the Army. How long?
Okay, so I was in the Army for 4 years and 6 months. In 2005 I joined and went to basic, and then went to the 101st Airborne, and then went directly to Iraq as a brand new private with little time to train with my guys. I mean, I literally showed up to Fort Campbell, and we were in Iraq 3 months later. And I went over there and was deployed to Southeast Baghdad as a cavalry scout, 19 Delta. We did route reconnaissance and route patrols, and I knocked out I don't know, something 250 plus missions, and I was there when Saddam Hussein was executed. I was there when we caught the number 3 person on the most high value target list. That doesn't make me anything special, but that's just gives you a time frame of when I was there. Yeah, man, I got on July 22nd, 2006, I was doing a route reconnaissance of a route down there. I don't even know if I can talk about it right now, but I don't know if we can reveal the names or anything, but I was on a route, and
Making sure no black SUVs pull up in front of my house. So you don't give away this information.
I mean, it's fine. I don't know if they're even being. I don't even know if they're being used anymore. But I was on a route. It was 15 minutes past midnight on my birthday. I was in the gunner's turret of a Humvee, and my vehicle was struck directly by an IED, improvised explosive device, roadside bomb, and I almost broke my back in 3 spots, got a brain injury, cracked my ribs. And then I woke up in the truck, and my driver pushed us through the blast zone, and the bad guys, I guess, put a secondary explosive device on a washer timer. And when I stood up in the gunner's turret again, I was hit again. So I was injured, and I actually stayed for the 5 months afterwards with torn muscles in my back and all that good stuff. They were going to have to kill me to take me out of there. And got back in November 2006, and then I went directly to a medical unit and spent 3 years trying to rehabilitate my spine and my brain. So that's me, guys.
Let's not ever really piss this guy off.
Wow.
Yeah,
Right?
If a damn IED can't kill him, I mean, come on, man.
No, it's fine. We can
Not
just outrun
one,
him.
but two.
Yeah, two. Yeah, about two. Yeah.
I was gonna say, how are you doing now? How did the rehab go? Are you? I guess coaching rugby, high school rugby, you're able to move around and everything, pretty good.
Yeah, I actually, a long, 7 rounds of physical therapy, spine injections. I did everything I could to not get back surgery. I'm going to try to put that off as long as I possibly can. I move around pretty okay. I've rehabilitated pretty good. I think usually I only get problems when I do something stupid, like trying to, lift something super heavy off the ground and not thinking about doing it right. Simple stuff like that. But
Right.
I think the big rehabilitation for me was mental. When I came back from Iraq, I was very much still in Viking mode, quotations. When I was back, all my buddies were sent on a quick redeployment. So we got back from Iraq, and then like 9 months later, they were sent to Afghanistan. They didn't even get a full year home. And I had to watch my buddies take off to go fight another war, and I was left back here. And I tried to reclass to several different jobs, try to be, in regular terms, a door gunner in helicopters, anything I could do to try to get back in the fight without having to wear all the gear. And they just said, nah, man, you're good. So they retired me out. It was something I thought I was going to do for the rest of my life. And then I went through a deep, dark depression. I wasn't happy with who I was, what I was. I felt like I let my country down. I felt like I let my brothers down in combat. They were over there fighting, and I'm sitting here. My relationships with loved ones and friends and everything suffered. And I just had to finally be real with myself. And I remember the morning I walked out on my front porch of the house I was in at that time and just walked outside and said, you can't live like this. And I was smart enough to go get therapy. And I started getting therapy for my PTSD and depression and anxiety. And that has been, honestly, the biggest thing I've dealt with. I mean, people can deal with pains and aches and things like that. We can find a way around it, but the mental scars and pain and things like that are sometimes really hard to get through,
Well, let me tell you 2 things real quick. Thank you for your service, and
Amen.
man, I'm glad you're still here. Like I said, I know we just met today, but I really, it's gonna sound weird, I feel like a connection with you in some way, and I don't know what that is yet, but maybe we were meant to meet or something. So, man, I'm glad that you are still here.
God's plan, bro. God's plan.
Yeah. I believe in that, man. And if he's got enough grace for this pirate, I always say I'm a pirate in a bow tie on my best day. If he can do that and still be cool with me, then and allow me to still try to suck air, then I'm going to try to do my best to try to make things better around me. I think Muhammad Ali said something of giving back is the way we pay rent down here. And that's the way I look at it. So, this is how we do it, guys. I don't, and that's a big thing that I'd like to say. I don't have any answers. I mean, anybody that I've ever interviewed on our podcast, I'm sure you guys can relate, and your listeners can relate. We're all still going through it. Nobody has literally figured it out and has no stresses in life. We're all going through it, but we're all finding ways to help deal with it and stay in a positive mind frame. So, by us continuing our mission and struggling and not losing through this stuff, especially through the mental health epidemic during COVID, hey man, we're all giving strength to each other,
Yeah. So you told us probably the most serious story. Do you have any funny stories from when you were deployed? Anything that you want to share?
Stuff you legally can tell us.
Yeah.
Did somebody blow up a toilet? Did somebody blow up the head with an M80 or something? Or
something
along those lines.
Something that doesn't cut the screen off immediately as soon as you talk about it.
Right.
Well, I'm just a dude. But I think, well, two stories. I'll tell you one. We didn't have a shower really when we first got there, and we were in Southeast Baghdad, like I said, and we really didn't have a shower. And the day we got a shower trailer and a water tank to actually take a shower, I was walking out the door to go take one, and a mortar hit it and blew it all to smithereens. And right next to me, man. I mean, it literally just blew just shrapnel all through the water tank. I'm watching water go out into the sand, and I said, well, I guess I'm not taking a shower again. So they had great aim,
They sure did.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. I think the first, I don't know. I could tell you a lot of funny stories. I think I was the new guy in the platoon. And my first mission, they made me a driver. And in basic training, I was trained on the old night vision goggles. And they got these new, when I got to Iraq and I'm with the 101st Airborne, they got all the new tech, right? Well, I didn't know how to use it. I mean, this is my first mission using new tech, you know what I mean? And we had just got there. And we're driving a route reconnaissance down one of the most dangerous routes in Iraq at the time. And they said, hey, we're going to go to Blackout Drive, which really means we're turning off all the lights in the truck and we're driving by night vision. And so anyway, I turned my night vision goggles on. They ain't working because I don't know how to use them. And I can't put them in, and I'm putting them in and out of focus. I'm trying to find what the hell's going on, man. And my sergeant in the truck literally sounded just like Major Payne. So if you can imagine that voice, and I don't know if I can even do a good impression of it, but he just
you think
yeah. And he just
do a better one, man.
And in basic training, they tell you whatever you do, don't stop, because when you stop, that's when they ambush you or blow up a roadside bomb. So he looks at me and I really can't do the high pitched voice, but he goes, Rookie, can you see? And I said, yep. And I just punched the gas and we're taking off down the road in pitch black. And I'm trying to adjust the lens, and we're going on the road, off the road, 60 miles an hour in an up armored Humvee. My gunner is literally just covering his eyes going, we're going to die. We're going to die. We're going to die. We're going to die. The sergeant in the back started puking. He's like, I was literally making him seasick because we're in this up armored Humvee and all this weight, and Sergeant A's like, they used to call me Rookie. Rookie, can you see? Can you see? And I said, I can't see nothing. And he just screams. this loud pitch, ah, and we're flying down the road in pitch black. And I finally get my night vision goggles to come into view. And I'm like, oh, I can see now. And right when my night vision came in, a tank hit us with a spotlight and blew up the whole front of the vehicle, hit the gas, flying off the road again. He's screaming, sergeant's puking, gunner's screaming. And long story short, he made me slam on the brakes. And I'm just the dumb new guy with this look on my face, right? And he just gets out of the vehicle in a combat zone. He's like, "You're trying to kill me. I swear to God, he was up there to kill me." And I mean, he wouldn't get back in the vehicle. We're in the middle of Baghdad. I mean, it was a good time, man. It was a good time.
I love how he tells a story about how him and about 15 other people almost died. Oh, it was a great time. Oh,
well,
shit.
You know, man, we all have
laugh at it.
Right,
know,
like,
if you can't,
holy shit, I'm okay.
Dude, I'll just, this is the last one, and I know you guys you want to get your own show, but
no, keep going. It's funny.
Yeah,
Come on.
We got time. Trust me.
Well, we were chasing this. We were chasing a high value target, and we're flying through all these back roads, right, along the Tigris River. So a lot of people think Iraq's just like this desert. Well, there's along the rivers and irrigation, they have, all these, just groves of palm trees and all these big trees and all these things. So it's a very lush oasis kind of landscape. And we're flying through these back roads, man. And if you've ever tried to do top end in an up armored Humvee, it's just all over the road. I mean, it looks like something Dukes of Hazzard style. And this dude is just flying in this broke down van. I mean, he is hitting it, man. And we're trying to keep up with him. And he just jumps this probably like 15-foot gap in this van that was an irrigation gap, and just jumps it. It was like a little riverbed, and he just jumps it, dude. And he made it.
Holy shit.
He made it. And he just kept, and we're like, and I slam on the brakes. Well, here's my sergeant, Major Payne, and I look over at him, and we had bonded by then. He kind of only hated me by then. And he goes,
kinda only.
Yeah, he just hated me a little bit by then. Yeah, just a little bit. And he looked at me and he said, "Fuck it, jump it." And I said, "What?" He goes, "Jump it. Let's do it." And I was like, all right. So I backed the Humvee up and I gas it. And we are flying. And we flew over that. And about halfway, the whole front end just nosedived.
No.
We were straight down, but flying through the air.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And we had a custom bumper on my truck that we had welded steel piping so that we could ram through traffic if we were in trouble. And that bumper actually caught the other side of the riverbed, and we bounced on it, and the whole truck bounced off of it, and we cleared the riverbed. But we wrecked on the other side.
I bet you the whole time.
Hey, but at least you made it over the river.
We
at least
did.
you did that.
We did.
And
when I got to the other side, I had twisted the entire frame of the Humvee 3 inches. The whole front was like this and the back end was going the other way. And I had to limp back to base in a brand new, but destroyed Humvee because we decided to Dukes of Hazzard it across freaking irrigation ditches. And I had to limp back to the base, and I had another mission in 6 hours.
Oh wow!
So I limped back to the base and pulled it into the motor pool, and it's like sputtering out, and smoke coming out of it. The armor's falling off of it, and had to tell the mechanics, "Hey, I need this back in 6 hours." And The
Wow.
only thing they put back in that Humvee that was original was the bumper that still made it. That's how big it was. And the engine. They rebuilt an entire Humvee around an engine and a bumper. And I cost the United States Army so much money that a sergeant major came down from the command building and found me in the motor pool and threatened my life and me guarding a rock in Antarctica for the rest of my career. So that was fun.
A rock in Antarctica. Holy shit. Oh man, that's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Hey, so all right, so
that is great.
Insane great. I mean, so aside from doing the podcast and aside from telling all these great stories and bringing awareness to mental health and things like that, is there anything you like to do outside of the podcasting realm, outside the arena, like interest and things like that?
Well, I mean, growing up, man, I come from a football family, so was very, into football growing up, Detroit Lions fans.
I'm sorry.
We're sorry.
Hey, well,
hey, at least he didn't say New York Jets.
That's true.
That's true.
Can I say it? I normally say it every Wednesday. Can I just say it here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Fuck the Jets. All right, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I grew up, fortunately, watching Barry Sanders, and that was just, man, what a running back. Watching him do what he did on the Lions with absolutely no offensive line was phenomenal. So yeah, I like watching sports. I was coaching rugby. I just recently had to retire from rugby as a coach, just so I could put in more time into the podcast because it's getting that busy now. So I was very involved in rugby as a coach, as a player in the past. I love anything sports. I did grow up watching wrestling in the age of Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, Ric Flair. I know those are the big names, but I got to see Roddy Piper growing up. I got to see all those guys, and I remember getting in trouble quite a bit, jumping off the couch and doing elbow drops on my little Hulk Hogan. What were those things called, like wrestling buddies?
The wrestling buddies. Yeah, the wrestling buddies.
Yep.
Absolutely. So who was some of your favorites? Like, I mean, obviously you said like Hogan and Piper and stuff. Was there one, like, was you more of a WWF fan or was you more of like a NWA WCW fan?
I remember watching both. And I remember watching both. I remember Sting when he was WCW and he had the blonde hair and the colorful masks.
Surfer Sting.
Yeah.
Surfer.
Yeah. I remember those days. Man, that's Bret the Hitman Hart. The attitude he brought when he would just walk down to the ring, man, and that music would kick in, and and he's the fans would go nuts, and he'd always have his sunglasses, those weird sunglasses, if you can even call them that, those shades that he'd pull off and give them to the kids, and even my family would watch Bret the Hitman Hart, and that whole family, the Hart family. That's hard, man. Wow.
I mean, there's no right or wrong answer. I mean, there really is no right or wrong answer here,
I really enjoyed, Sergeant Slaughter. I remember Tugboat and Earthquake, I remember when that tag team happened. I remember Yokozuna. I remember, I liked Roddy Piper a lot. I think I liked his story. The fact that, he grew up in an orphanage. Wrestling gave him a way out, and just the attitude and the energy he brought to every show. Him and Ric Flair, just the energy. You know what I mean? And I know that may be cliche for wrestling fans to say those two big names, but I just, anytime Roddy Piper or Ric Flair was involved in a match, there was a lot of energy and people were watching. You know what I mean?
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So do you still enjoy wrestling today?
So I do, But honestly, lately I've been really getting. Roger has shown me a lot of the Japanese the Japanese. What's their
New Japan.
Yeah,
New Japan Pro,
just.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm gonna tell people, if you are not watching Japanese wrestling, you're insane. I can't. Those people are insane, man. The moves they're doing. I mean, the acrobatics. I mean, they're doing stuff that you don't even think is possible, and they're doing it all the time. And they're just there's so much energy in every match. I love it, man.
Yeah. Who are some of your favorites to watch in New Japan right now?
Well, that was, and I don't know their names, but it's a tag team. It's a tag team, and they almost wear like the old school Rockers pants. They're very acrobatic.
The Young Bucks.
Young Bucks, yeah.
Matt and Nick Jackson. Okay.
Yeah, and that was when Roger brought that over. He was like, "Dude, I need you to check these dudes out."
Man, that's like some old Wrestle Kingdom 9 or something like that.
I was showing him the classic New Japan stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I was thinking like 10 years back.
Well, time out. To me, because to me, like classic New Japan is like Masawa and fucking
not the legacy time. I'm talking about not the new All-Star time. How about that?
Oh, okay, that works.
Yeah, I but honestly, I like. I mean, the local shows that we've had here have been great. I mean, I've seen guys put their bodies on the line, man. I've seen when you try to make a good landing and your knee catches too much of the mat, and it just your knee feels like it probably goes right through it into the steel beams underneath it. And I've seen those guys get back up and act like, yeah. I mean, I got a question for you guys. With wrestling, because you guys are all wrestling dudes.
Okay.
So how does wrestling help you guys with any issues that you're having, mental or physical or anything like that? Like, what does it do for you guys to be out there in the ring, man?
For me, it's therapeutic. It's therapeutic. It's cathartic. It makes me, for those. I mean, you could have just the shittiest day, the shittiest week. Just nothing's going right for you. Just it just sticks in your crawl. But for those 10 to 15 minutes that you're out there in that ring on a Saturday night in front of who knows how many people, you get to be anybody you want to be. You can, because it's one of those. It's one of those things where it's like you get to be this person, whether you're being a good guy or a bad guy. You can either be the greatest superhero that ever existed, or you can be the biggest asshole heel possible, and it's a weird thing. And if you don't, I explain it to some people who aren't wrestling fans. If you don't get it, you may never get it, because the people who don't like wrestling, they're never going to be fans of it.
No, never.
But if you're a fan of it, I think if you were a fan of it growing up, it's easier for you to kind of get into that mindset, to get into a character or whatever. If you, like most people these days, if you're a great college athlete and then you fail at whatever sport, like, oh, what's the next best thing? Oh, I'll just do pro wrestling because that's easy. And then they actually get involved with the business and they thought, holy fuck, I'd rather go back to doing 2-a-days. I mean, a lot of them do that, But for me, honestly, it's therapeutic. It gives me an outlet to do something that I want to do. It gives me an outlet to be something that I would not normally be in my normal life. Like as I'm talking to you right now, I'm just, good old, talent, a husband, a father or two, but when I go to that ring, I'm Talon Williams, fuck you and everybody in the world. I'm ready to kill somebody. That's the mentality, and you transform. But the problem that I see a lot of is that people don't understand that when you go through the curtain, you're on. When you come back through that curtain, you're supposed to cut it off. And most guys don't know how to cut it off. They don't understand that there's life outside this shit. You still understand? So that for me, I would say it's more therapeutic than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I could have said it any better. It's for me, it's the ability to take all my frustrations from my Monday through Friday 9 to 5 and go out there and let those frustrations go. You know, like Talon said, whether you're the good guy and you're able to, you know, overcome the evil and, you know, triumph over the bad guy, or you're the bad guy and you get to take all of that negative energy and amp it up to 11 and be able to say, you know what, hey, you suck, you're terrible, and you're kind of taking all those transgressions from the week and you're laying them out there. But it's also the one thing for me is it's the ability to it's the ability to take the people that paid for a ticket and take them out of whatever shitty kind of situation they're in and say, hey, here's this entertainment, don't worry about what else is going on around you, just kind of get lost in the moment, have fun, you know, and don't worry about it right now. So it's, you know, kind of a I look at it as kind of an outreach to people that are going through something, you know.
Yeah, if they can watch a wrestling match and they can take their mind off of, for the two and a half hours that they're in this arena or stadium or building or warehouse or wherever the wrestling show is being held, they have the ability. We try our best to present stories to entertain you so that you can forget about the problems. Oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pay this bill this month, or I don't know if I'm going to be able to, you know, you're having relationship issues, or you're having, you know, maybe mental issues in some cases. You know, there've been plenty of people who literally had no idea, you know, what they were going to do, you know, and then they end up discovering wrestling, and then it's just something that they became passionate about. Roger, you got any?
I mean, you guys pretty much said what I was going to say. It's an escape, not only for me, but for the fans. I love especially being a heel. Like, you just they can let their frustrations out on you and forget about the crap at home or at work or whatever. You entertain them, you jaw with them, and then at the end of the night, they're like, hey guys, great job, you know, love what you did, thank you for this. Like, just knowing that even though they hate us, they thank us because we gave them something to ease their mind. And not only that, I mean, being with the guys in the back, I mean, you guys, like, we're brothers pretty much. Just being with other people who are just like you, who love the same things as you do pretty much. Having, like, pretty much like a little convention in the back room, just dicking off and doing whatever. But when we go through those curtains, we're trying to kill each other, but with love, you know. And
right.
It's just that kind of thing. It's just one of those things where if you aren't in it, you won't understand it. But if you do it, it's one of those things like you just can't really get away from.
Yeah.
Is that what pushes you guys? Because I mean, for everyone listening, if you're not a wrestling fan, you need to be, because these guys kill themselves for you. But is that what pushes you guys through those type of, like, I mean, because you guys get dinged up in the ring, and then there's show after show after show, and is that what pushes you through all that to maintain that level of entertainment for everybody?
Yes.
Well,
for me it is.
Yeah. Pretty much.
You're taught. I mean, the one thing that I was told when I first started, this shit hurts, and it's not that mat is unforgiving, and everybody says, oh, it's like a trampoline. No, the fuck it is. It is basically, we call them bump bars, but there's like 8 to 10 bars going one way and like 3 big bars going the other way, or 2 depending on what kind of ring you set up in. And you either got plywood or a whole bunch of 2x10s or 2x8s. Then you got maybe a mat that's anywhere between a 1/4 of an inch to an inch, you know, big. And then you got maybe 1, maybe 2 canvases on it, just enough to give you a little bit of cushion. And then you take your first bump on it, and to be honest though, me and Chip, when we first started training, our first bump wasn't even in a wrestling ring. It was on concrete.
Wow.
We were trained like, we call ourselves, we made mention of it in a couple of promos that we were the last of the old school generation, because we were trained like, they literally, for the first 6 weeks of our training, they literally wanted us to quit. They wanted to see how far they could push us. And then I believe it started off, he came in, I think, with 10 other people. And then I came in 2 months later with a group of 8. And then there was only 2 people left out of him and another guy. And then after about 7-8 months, it was just down to me and him, and, we pretty much looked at each other and said, all right, listen, if we're going to get through this shit, we're going to have to stick together on this. We're going to have to, because that's when me and Chip really hit it off, is that we had to stay, we were the only 2 that lasted. So we were like, fuck, we got to ride this shit out together. And I remember one time we showed up for training, and he looked at me and he goes, man, I'm seriously thinking about quitting. I'm like, no, man, don't do it with that. Let's just go in here. Let's just see what's going on. We walk in there, we see our trainer and Jerry McCoy, and he walked up to us. He put his arms around us. And he goes, boys, I got a secret to tell you. This shit's fake. Get in the ring. I'll show you how to work. And me and him both look like, what the fuck? I just sat down on the ring. And Chip's looking with this, and Jerry goes, you want to hit me right now, don't you?
and I told him, I said, if I could move halfway decent, I'd probably try to kill you right now. But I wouldn't have changed anything.
Right.
I wouldn't have changed the way that I came up in this business for anything I have done or has been done to me up until this point has made me the man that I am today. And no matter what it is, you take it, and there's a lesson to it, and you learn from the lesson. It could be a positive lesson or a negative lesson, but you look at that lesson and you're like, okay, if it's positive, I need to do more of this. Or if it's negative, like we don't do that ever again. And it just makes you who you are. You just kind of live with it, I think.
So I was talking with somebody a couple days ago, and we were talking about, the brotherhood, sisterhood, if for the ladies out there, that you find in struggle. When you're willing to put sweat equity into something, when you bleed for something, and you push your body to the limit, and there's other people next to you doing the same for the same goals, same passions, whatever, you find it really just forges a brotherhood. Is that how it is in the wrestling business?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, sir.
You won't, I'll say this, there will be times where you won't get along with everybody. There are going to be people that you won't click with, whether it be on a wrestling level. Like there's people that I can go out there and I can have a great match with, but we have nothing that connects us outside of wrestling. And then I have people who I'm real good friends with outside of wrestling, and then we go in there, we put on an either a great match or an okay match. It can go either way. And then sometimes you can go out there and you have a terrible match, and it's like, oh shit, we just had a terrible match. And then probably one of the greatest pieces of advice I've ever gotten was I was sitting there after a match, and I wrestled, God rest his soul, I wrestled Drew Game. And I was like, man, I'm sorry I fucked that up. Like I really did. He just put his hand on my head and he goes, it's okay, kid. There's always next time. And then that's when it hit me. I was like, yeah, there's always next time. So if you have a bad match, it's okay. You just go and move on to the next one, because there's 2 things that I've learned. Nobody has the perfect match, and everybody's going to have a shitty one. So, but the camaraderie, what you talk about is that a lot of times it's because like you see guys work and you become fans of their work. Matter of fact, the first time I met, we talked about him on the podcast just recently. First time I met David Ali, I was at a TWE building. We actually pulled into the parking lot at the same time. And I get out the car and I'm not paying that much attention like I normally am. But I look up at him. I'm like, hey man, how's it going? He goes, you're Talon Williams, aren't you? I said, and I'm looking at him and I'm like, oh wait, you're David Ali. And he's like, hey man, how you doing? And then for whatever reason, we just gave each other a hug. And I was like, I just met this motherfucker. Why am I giving this guy a hug? but then it turned out that a couple of months down the road, we ended up wrestling each other at a Wrestling for Christ show out in Chickamauga. And you know, we for whatever reason, you just have a connection with somebody. And I find there's a stigma with professional wrestling that if you are a fan of a certain person, you're a mark, you know. And you know, like, I understand like the concept of it, like, oh, you're a fan of this person, which really the term mark has been misused so long for professional wrestling, they don't even know the real root of what the term came from. You know, like, you wouldn't say that LeBron James is a Magic Johnson mark. You know what I mean? You wouldn't say that, you know, you wouldn't say that Andrew Luck was a fucking Peyton Manning mark. You know, they just appreciate their work. You know, oh, but if you say, oh, well, me, Talon Williams, a wrestler, I'm a big fan of Eddie Guerrero. Oh, you're an Eddie Guerrero mark. Oh, you go to the rings doing La Vida La Raza. Like, motherfucker, let me enjoy who I want to enjoy. You know what I mean?
I would 100% the same. You know,
yeah,
give me a
yeah,
low
but
rider.
You're a dick. That's a different story.
Hey, I don't care. Eddie is 100% go. I'm okay. Give me that low rider all day.
All right. Hey, there you go. but you see what I'm saying? It's like, it's almost like, but when we're in that locker room, it is a brotherhood. Now, do brothers fight? Absolutely, they fight. We were at a show in Tryon, Georgia, and I'm not going to mention their names and put their names on blast like that. But I know two guys who were like literally within like 2 feet of me, just on the ground, rolling, throwing fists at each other. And I'm just like, "Hey, can y'all get off my bag? Like, I'm trying to get dressed for the show, you know." And they just got up and rolled on to the next, all over a rat. I'm sorry. Next question.
Yeah.
Anyway. But anyway.
How hard is it to build chemistry with someone? I mean, is it sometimes you just find chemistry, like someone you can just wrestle great with? It's like boom, or is chemistry earned and built and it just one day after several matches and several practices and stuff like that, it's like boom, it just takes off.
It's both. I've gotten in the ring with people that I've never wrestled before and had what we would dub an instant classic, where it was just this really, really great match. And then I've had people that I've wrestled 100 times and 95 of them were terrible. You know, you just kind of, some people you click with, like Talon was saying, and some people you have to build toward. And I mean, kind of like with, you know, with your friends, some people you click with instantly, and some people, you know, it takes a little bit of time to kind of, all right, what do we have that in common? All right, reach out, and then everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. See, that's the, you know, I think that now, you know, learning, especially after, you know, knowing Roger and hearing you guys, you know, when you start hearing about all the work and that you guys put into this, I mean, it's not, you know, it's not just, okay, it's Friday night, I just got off work and I'm just going to go out there and we're going to make this stuff up on the fly and hopefully it works. Like, you guys are, you know, I mean, one wrong move, you separate someone's shoulder. One wrong move, you actually make contact with that kick to their face and they're out like a light. You know, one wrong move and that slam that you're doing, they're not landing correctly, and that's really like what? Like, I mean, that's it, right? That's yep. Bottom.
Yeah,
you know?
me and Chip had a friend named Diablo. All he did was a simple arm wringer. That's all he did was just a simple arm wringer, and his foot got caught in the canvas. The canvas was loose, and when he just did that simple arm wringer, his body moved, his foot didn't, and it caused a spiral fracture in his leg, and he was out for what, 7-8 months.
Yeah, I think he may have wrestled one match after that, and then it weighed on his mind, and he decided that he was done. He wasn't going to wrestle anymore. And some people, you know, that it happens. You get that injury, and that injury weighs on your mind, and you become fearful, and that's all you think about. You know, the next time I walk out there, the next time I step into that ring, that same injury is going to happen or whatnot, you know.
Now,
Yeah.
Roger, like 10 years ago, man, you invited us to a wrestling match.
When I first started.
No, yeah, but the thing is it just happened. It just happened. But the way you hit the mat, you landed pretty much right on top of your head,
Yep.
and everyone knew, and the show still kind of went on, and I mean, it was a pretty serious ding there, and with us being, talking about that, where did you find the, courage after getting hurt like that to say, hey, I mean, this is for all you guys too, but I mean, you're like, hey, look, I almost broke my neck here, and I'm going to get right back out there next weekend, and we're going to rock and roll here. So where did you find the ability to do that?
Well, from that moment, I learned if I'm not comfortable doing a move with somebody, not to do it. The guy I was working wanted to do a vertebraker on me, and it was literally my second match, and I was like, hey, I don't think we should do that, but he's like, yeah, it'll be fine, and lifts me up and immediately falls backwards. So yeah, I really don't get to brace myself, so I just pretty much fall on my head and neck, like right on the back of my head. But I had enough adrenaline to where I was like sort of into it still, so I was like, okay, I can keep doing this, but I felt weird. And then the next time we had a show, I was like, you know what, I'm not working that same person, so I don't have to worry about that. And the person I worked that day literally just all we did was simple basic stuff, just snap mirrors, hip toss, and then chin locks, and just did it as basic as possible. And I was like, okay, hey, not everybody's gonna immediately put me in danger. So that's where I was like, yeah, I can do this still. I can do this for a while.
Wow.
Yeah, injuries happen a lot more often than, this little knick-knack injuries or, some, possible concussions. Probably the worst injury I think I've ever gotten. My son was born in August of 2013. I took 2 months off to be with him. I got back into the groove of things, and this was September of 2013. And that's when I came back. It was me and Chip versus two other guys. And I just did a simple move that I've done thousands upon thousands of times. I turned, and then all of a sudden I heard pop. And immediately, for everything from my left knee down went completely numb. I could not move. Like, I literally, like what the hell's going on with my knee right now? So I turned out of the body, bam, literally rolled the Chip, tagged him, and rolled out of the ring. And Chip's like, oh shit, he's hurt. Get in, and then I think they did their little spot with their little secrets, whatever. And I was able to finish the match. I'm like, okay, it's not hurting me, it's fine. I go home that night thinking, I think Chip gave me one of his knee sleeves or something like that, just to, keep it compressed or whatever. I got up the next morning. My knee was so swollen, I couldn't even bounce on my other leg to get to the door to leave out to go to the damn doctor's office just to see what was wrong with it. It turns out it was just a very bad sprain. It wasn't torn or anything like that. So I dodged a bullet on that one. But yeah, I mean, for it to happen, especially when you're in the moment, like when your adrenaline's going, you really don't feel it as much. But then once your adrenaline comes down and you got that, like, oh shit, this is starting to hurt. And I've had issues with my knee ever since then. I mean, I think I was out for 6 months with it. But then once I came back, doubled up on the knee braces and stuff, and mentally you try not to think about it. It does pop up in your head every once in a while, but most of the time I don't think about it, because I know if I think about it, something's gonna happen, or if I think about it too much. If you're not in the right frame of mind when you go into the ring, 3 things are going to happen. A, you could hurt yourself. B, you could hurt somebody else. Or C, you're not going to be able to perform to the level that you perform at. And those are the 3 things right there that you want. You don't want to hurt nobody. You don't want to hurt yourself, especially if you have jobs and, responsibilities outside the business. So yeah, when you have an injury, it does fuck with you mentally, but the Jedi mind trick is you have to figure out a way to overcome that and not think about it so much, because when you do start thinking about it, that's when more bad shit happens. You don't want to go down that road again.
Yeah, growing up, I can kind of relate to this a little bit. Growing up, I come from a martial arts family, and I used to do judo. and they always used to talk about, there's two very important things: the one guy doing the move and the one guy who's getting the move done on him. You have to flow with it. A lot of people see when people are, and it's the same thing with wrestling, right? You see someone doing a toss, that guy doesn't go with the move, he lands incorrectly, someone gets hurt. And when you're training and when you're trying to get your routine down and all these other things, it's all about, holding on to the guy while you're throwing him so he lands correctly and things like that. And growing up, I've made the mistake sometimes of not flowing perfectly with the throw, and then you land flat on your back and you get the air knocked out of you, or you get your ribs cracked or something like that. The thing is with me, though, is I'm not in the middle of hundreds of people trying to entertain them, and the show has to go on. I mean, I have nothing but respect for you guys to be able to go through that type of, you get an injury like that and you're like, I still got, 5, 10, 15 minutes left of this match. I got to try to make this all come together,
Yeah. It happens.
It really does. It's not fun.
Man.
No, but just to elaborate, the two worst injuries that I've ever had is I've had my skull split. I have a permanent crack in my cranium from a steel chair, and then my orbital socket was fractured due to a move going wrong, and the back of the guy's skull came right across my eye socket and fractured my eye socket.
I'm sorry.
You hear him saying sorry because it was the back of Talon's head.
Yeah, it was the back of my head.
But I honestly, the most time that I've missed from wrestling in almost 20 years is the stint from March of 2020 till now due to COVID. I fractured my skull and wrestled the next week. I fractured my eye socket and wrestled the next week. And I think what kind of kept me going is when I had a little kid come up to me and basically say, "Hey, you're my hero. You make the day better when you're out there." And I was like, well, shit, I have to continue no matter how hurt I am. I have to do this for him. So that's kind of what pushed me forward. And then now, not so much. I mean, I have two little ones of my own. I have a 4-year-old named Grayson and a 3-year-old named Colton, and they are literally my world. And I don't ever want to do anything that is going to keep me away from them for an extended period of time.
Well, I mean, that's when you guys were talking about my favorite wrestlers and stuff like that, I think in that era, the 80s, and I'm an 80s kid. The wrestlers gave kids heroes. We were able to be on television. They were able to be on television. I was able to watch them, and you see these individuals, and we get the whole thing, but of the entertainment side of wrestling on who's going to win and what could happen here, and we all know about the whole Bret Hart thing in Canada, and he was supposed to win. What do they call it? The Montreal screw job? Is that what it was
Supposed
called?
to win,
yeah. But you guys give somebody a young, and that's where you were talking about it earlier. Talent is when you're a kid and you start off with it, and you see these heroes, going through pain and getting thrown out of the ring and all the things they're going through, and then they end up winning in the end, or you see the bad guy come out, and I mean, there's times, how do you not root for the bad guy, just because of what he adds to the show.
Right. Well, I think nowadays, back in the 80s and maybe the early 90s, it was the babyface versus heel dynamic, and in a way, I still see it today, but the audiences, even though the audience today is smaller than it was back in the 80s and 90s, the knowledge of the business has grown exponentially to where it's like people don't really necessarily care about good guys and bad guys anymore. They just care about who the better performer, the better wrestler is. And that's in most cases. Now, there are some cases where there are great guys who are good heels, who are good at, you know.
Did you just cut out for everybody?
Yeah, he just cut out.
Yeah.
Oh, Talon, you're there?
If the people still looked at it with the passion that they had in the 80s, because I asked this question just the other day, if the wrestling industry right now, with all the companies that are around right now, if all of these were in their, you know, in like 1997, you know, to 2000, that 4-year window where wrestling was probably as popular as it will ever be ever. I mean, wrestling would it oversaturate everything, or would it have been bigger than what it is today? You know.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's, you know, with the way, I mean, then that's, I mean, just what they're doing, what you guys are doing in the ring now is just, yeah. I mean, it's no longer just, you know, the leg drop, you know, is the finishing move. You know what I mean? Like, you know, and all respect to Hulk Hogan, I'm just saying that you know, now you're seeing guys, you know, big guys going over the top rope and you know, out of the ring and onto like 6 guys and I mean, stuff that, you know, I didn't see when I was a kid. We you know, Hulk Hogan, his whole thing is he'd pull his arm back for 10 seconds and he'd hit somebody. You know, you knew it was coming. But I mean, it was like, it was one of those, it was a show, you know, he really was a showman when it came to the wrestling thing. But you know, there's a mad respect that I have for wrestlers, and that's because, you know, when I was in Iraq, now I didn't get to go see it, but the WWE came to Iraq and put on a show.
The tribute to the troop show.
Yep. And while they were doing it, they got a mortar attack, and they kept going. You know, that's the thing.
Wow,
I mean,
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, they now granted, the mortars weren't popping in right at the ring at that time, but there were mortars going off around where they were at, and they just kept going.
Well,
they were not going to stop the show.
Well, if Vince McMahon's not going to stop the show from one of his own wrestlers dying from falling, you know, over 80 feet, then, you know, what's a mortar going to do for him? You know what I mean?
Oh, no, yeah. I remember the Owen Hart thing, man, and that was, ooh, boy. Yeah, I remember that night on television, and that was, oh, boy. You know what I mean? That, you know, it's a testament to what you guys put into your showmanship, and it's not just the showmanship, it's the athletic side of things too, where you're taking the bumps and bruises and keeping your body in shape. I mean, I've you know, getting to know Roger, he's told me about, you know, running the ropes and getting your body hard on the mat, and the rope burns you get when you first start doing it, because your body's not used to, you know, all that contact and all these things. You just have, you know, rope burn all over you and stuff like that. Well, not rope burn. I mean, they're tighter than, I mean, there's like steel cables inside those ropes, isn't there?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it's
I mean,
3/4 steel cable with garden hose wrapped around it, and then you have like duct tape around that
tape.
to
You got
hold
shitty
it.
tape.
Yeah.
And then it just burns the shit out your armpits and everything.
It's weird, but I'm the weird one. I actually like a ring with real ropes. I don't know why. Like we wrestled in one in it was in Mount Airy, North Carolina, and I loved it. I loved wrestling in a ring with real ropes. I don't know. Like, I mean, I'll wrestle in any ring that, you know, with the cables and things like that, but there's just something about real ropes. It just makes it more authentic. I don't know the weird way to describe it. It's just cool to me. I like it's, you know, they bounce, but It's not like they're gonna like throw you halfway across the ring. It's almost like it kind of, gives you a little bit of, it's a little bit of cushion, but it's not like stop, go, no, but I actually enjoy ropes. I know it sounds weird, but I actually enjoy ropes.
Are you trying to tell us something?
Say what, Rod?
Are you trying to tell us something secretly?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
You like rope?
BDSM.
I mean, he does like being tortured. He is a Miami Dolphin fan.
Now. Hey. Hey. Hey, at least I have a quarterback. Shut up.
Which one?
More than what you have.
Hey,
First
dude,
time in
don't ever
25
go.
years.
You can't go against Fitzmagic, man. Anybody who gives an interview where he literally stole the receiver's clothes and jewelry to come out in neck chains like Mr. T, dude. That was so good. I will be a fan of him for the rest of my life just from that one interview.
Dude, I don't know. Like when I first seen it, when I've seen that press conference, I know the one you're talking about. When I seen that press conference, I thought, holy fuck, when did Conor McGregor join the Miami Dolphins? This is awesome.
Dude, the best quote that he had, I loved it. He's got all these gold chains on and stuff, the shades, and they're like, what do you, I think the question was like, what's the biggest thing that has kept you going, as being a backup quarterback, now a starter? And he's like, staying humble. And he's wearing all this gold, it was so good, dude. I died.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. On a side note, away from wrestling or anything like that, do you read like books?
So because of my brain injury and stuff like that, sometimes reading can cause really bad migraines with me. So I listen to a lot of things.
Okay.
I'm a big time like audio listener. So, anything, I mean, I will listen to books. But reading has really just been that's one thing that's always been still kind of something I'm still trying to be able to do consistently where it's not causing the migraine headaches and stuff like that. But yeah.
Okay. Well, can I would like to recommend an audio book for you and for Talon and Roger. I actually bought the Kindle version of it recently, and it's Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. I wasn't sure how I was gonna enjoy it or whatnot. I downloaded the kind of preview that Kindle allows you to, and it was like a 60-page preview, and I blew through it in like 30 minutes. And I was like, damn, I need more.
Right.
Went ahead and bought the entire book, and I'm more than halfway through it, and I just put it down. And it's rare for me to find a book anymore that is like that I just can't put down. And some of the knowledge and everything that he puts out there, I would definitely recommend it. It's very much on the lines of what we have been talking about here tonight.
That's awesome. Definitely want to check that out.
You said it was Green Lights?
Yeah, it's called Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey.
All right. I can't do it. I can't do it in the southern drawl like he can.
No, he's got that special way of doing it.
He got that special accent. He got that McConaughey accent. And nobody in Texas speaks like this. You know what I'm saying?
What's ironic is he's not originally from Texas.
Really? I thought he was born and bred in Texas, went to UT and everything.
No, he did go to UT, but no. He went to UT for film school, but no.
He's actually a professor there for film.
Yeah.
Really?
Kind of moved all over, grew up in Louisiana.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
You
get that Bayou language, that Creole talk.
Yeah, for real.
Do you speak Creole?
Yeah. But
that's what I sing Peter's asleep.
Call me now for your free reading. Oh wait, that's Jamaican. Never mind.
That's Miss Cleo. She's definitely.
Wow.
God bless you, Miss Cleo. Rest in peace.
Yeah. So, Sean, before we get out of here, is there anything that you want to tell our listeners, or maybe something we should be looking out for coming from you?
Well, first of all, I'm definitely going to have you guys on our show as well. I think that you bring a great attitude, and a lot of the stories I've learned a lot from you guys tonight, and I think that you guys all coming from the wrestling background can actually show people that I think a lot of people can relate to being hurt and still putting on the show.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people live like that.
Yeah.
And I think that with you guys, hopefully, I'm still going to be a fan no matter what. I'm going to listen to you guys. I think it's awesome. I love your. By the way, the president of my network is like the paranormal stuff. He's like going to jump on it. I mean, I love how you guys have so much content. But hopefully we'll have you on our show and you can tell our listeners about what it's like in the wrestling world and fighting through pain for others, and then finding healing through that. I think that's a great mission. Looking forward, I think with our organization now, with our network and us branching out with this whole redefining a warrior thing, the projects I'm looking at is one, definitely, obviously talking to you guys, but I think I'm gonna reach out to the American Sumos. I think that you can still be a big body and be athletic. So for all you guys who think that you're a big person and you're like, well, I can't do anything, well, I think we're gonna reach out to the Sumos and we're gonna have an episode with them so that they can talk about training with that and being competitive as a big guy. We're kind of looking at hopefully branching out internationally overseas and talking to other countries and bringing other veteran organizations in a partnership to where we're all taking care of each other. I think it doesn't matter what country you come from. If you're a warrior and you're willing to fight for your country, and even if you're not in the military and you have that warrior mentality and you're trying to fight through your battles, I think we all need to support each other. So we're looking at hopefully moving out on an international level, and then also talking to just away from all the normal things. And I don't want to say football and all these other athletes are just normal, but I think people can find healing through wrestling, through sumo, through skateboarding, through surfing. So we're really branching out on a whole bunch of different avenues of therapy, and that's what we're looking at in the future, guys.
Awesome, man.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you for being with us today, man. I learned a lot just sitting here talking to you. Learned a lot. I learned a lot just listening to Roger and Chip, honestly. That's one thing that we try to do, with our podcast, is that we want to, because everyone says, oh, well, you got to have a niche audience. You have to have that niche audience. And I made the statement that our audience is our niche audience, because we have so much that we talk about, where we talk about haunted places, we talk about, rock bands, retrospectives, we talk about wrestling, we talk about movies, music, pop culture, all kinds of different things like that. And we want to branch out to everybody. We don't want people to feel like they can't listen to us and not find enjoyment. You know what I mean? If you do like hilarious stuff and you want a good laugh, check out our Would You Rather episode. Just don't listen to it at work.
Yeah,
that's not
definitely.
So yeah, but definitely check that out, man. But yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for being here with us, man. We definitely learned a lot. Anything else you want to plug before we get out of here tonight?
No, guys. I just want to plug you guys. It was such a pleasure being here. I learned a lot from all three of you. You just gave me great insight in the world of wrestling and in life in general. So it really was a privilege for me. This kind of stuff is what makes me a better person, is learning from others. And as far as anybody saying content with this or that or whatever, I say you guys talk about whatever the heck you want to talk about. I'll be listening.
Hold on. Before we end this, can you tell some rugby coach stories before we leave? Get some people some insight on that.
Yeah.
Coach stories.
Yeah.
Yes.
Time out. Something tells me that Roger had a particular story in mind that he wants you to tell.
Yeah.
It's about his reaction, how he was so quick to ask.
That 5.
Well, there's a couple of stories. I literally could probably write a book or a movie on some of these guys. When I first started coaching, I just was out of the military, so practice was like basic training.
Sure was. Sure.
Oh
was.
yeah. Oh man. And these guys, they were looking at me like, someone get this guy a donut and shut him the hell up, But yeah, I just, I was very strict, and like you guys were talking about with your wrestling, I almost call it selection, because you guys start off with a large group of numbers, and then you fine tune it to you find out who really wants to be there. That's how I coached. And these guys would just go through some grueling stuff. I mean, airborne PT kind of stuff. And I really, Roger was coming out of the whole, track. You did track, right, Roger, and soccer?
Track and soccer, yep.
Yeah, so I could run them all day. So what I would do is I'd make the other guys, I'd say, we quit when Roger's puking. And so, Roger's running around, jumping, doing jumping jacks, doing push-ups, doing sit-ups, doing star jumps, sprints, and he's just flying down the field, and all the rest of the guys, the bigger guys, would be like, we're going to break Roger's legs when we leave practice today, because we're not doing this ever again.
And this was every practice, so.
This was, it was, I've had guys, I started these guys up on a warm-up, and this is I love that. I grew up in Michigan, so this was my introduction to you Southern boys, and I love the South, man. I love you guys down here. It's you guys are just hardcore, man. I was doing a warm-up run. These guys were just running around the field warming up. And this guy gets like one lap in, and he starts puking. And he's an athletic guy, and I walk up and I go, "What are you doing, man? Did you eat some bad food before you get here?" And he looked at me, and he had a chew in his hand, and he had put a chew in before he started running, and it made him sick. And I was like, "You chew at practice?" And he's like, "Well, I don't want to waste a good chew, coach." Finished puking, put it back in, and kept running.
Oh my God.
Wow.
That I've had. God. It's never a dull moment. It's never a dull moment. I've had the privilege of just seeing some really funny things, and I put a guy in the game one time, and I said, hey, he was a football player, and I said, hey, you're not wearing a football helmet no more, so don't run into someone with your face first, because you'll break your nose. He was literally out there for 15 seconds. 15 seconds. And right in front of me on the sideline, tried to tackle a guy and led with his face. Broke his nose, shattered his nose, blood pouring out of it. And the first person he sees is me looking at him after I just said, don't lead with your face.
You probably had your hands on your hips, shaking your head.
Yep.
No, first of all, that's not what he does. When he gets upset on the sideline, he doesn't do that. He puts his hand down, looks up at the sky, and then walks away. He's so disappointed in us every single time.
That's got to be one of the most insane sports in the world. Like, I mean, I've watched it on television before. I don't know, at like 3 a.m. in the morning on ESPN 8 the Ocho or something. Yeah. But no, I remember this one. It was on a WatchMojo.com YouTube channel, and it was talking about the 10 most gruesome sports injuries of all time, and a rugby player was the number one. I don't know if you've heard this story. They were just doing a play, and a guy legit was like here, and then he got spiked on his head, and then like 3 other players came down right on top of him, like broke his neck and stuff like that. He didn't play again for the rest of his life. He was in a wheelchair. Like, could we honestly say that, as far as just a normal contact sport, not doing anything extreme or anything like that, but just as a contact sport, rugby is probably one of the most extreme ones out there?
I would say yes. I would also say that we teach really safe technique. Now, I think that it's the same thing we can relate it to the wrestling world. If somebody doesn't want to go outside that technique and do something that just doesn't work, it's the same thing in rugby. In rugby, when you tackle, you're not allowed to pick a guy up and dump. We call it dump tackling. That's what happened to that guy. There's no pads. So when you tackle someone, you tackle through somebody. As soon as you pick them up and drop them on their head, you're out for the game. You're gone. So if somebody did that, that was a malicious, 100%. They meant to do it, and they didn't care if they got thrown out of the game because of it. And that's where you see a lot of the bench clearing fights and stuff like that. It used to happen in the old days of rugby, these enforcer day kind of, rugby days.
Our days of rugby?
Yeah, you guys were brutal, but, there was a guy, a professional player who got cleated and actually tore his nutsack.
Oh, shit.
Yep. Went to the sideline. They sewed his nutsack, and he went back out to finish the game. So
he's hardcore.
Yeah.
Well,
it's rugby.
He's hardcore. He's hardcore.
Yeah.
It's just rugby.
This is awesome. Yeah.
No, this is painful.
Yeah.
Oh, no, this is nuts.
Yeah. Hey, dude. Yeah.
That's no pun in there. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I mean,
oh, damn.
I think that rugby is, once you understand the game and someone actually explains what's going on, it's not as extreme as you would think. You'd be like, I understand what's going on here. And, it's a very physical sport, but if people are playing it right, and actually following the rules and not doing the cheap shots and all the other things, it's like playing backyard football. You get done with the game, you're beat up and bruised, but you can all go have a beer with each other after the game. You know what I mean?
So it still happens, though, in a sense of there's still goons on the team that will literally, the coach will put in and say, yo, look, fuck this guy up. Just get at this. You're going to be in there for 10 seconds. Just fuck this guy up and leave, pretty much. You think that still goes on?
I think it still goes on 110%. I think that as a coach, I think that just like you were saying with backstage with wrestling and stuff, guys get chippy. There's a lot of conversation that happens on the field that we don't always hear because it's in the middle of the field. And as a coach, I've told certain players, and I'm not saying hurt people, but you designate players almost like outside linebackers. You're like, when you blitz, you go hit the quarterback as hard as you can, that kind of thing. And when someone's doing that for 80 minutes and there's all the chippiness going on, things can build up and get out of control. But I do believe that there are professional players and there's been spotlights on certain international players where they're like, the only reason this guy gets out there is to literally piss off the other team, hit them hard, make them aggravated. That's his whole job, is to just be a goon and be an enforcer in a way and throw them off their game. It happens.
So most of the time it's just a heat of the moment kind of thing, most of the time.
Yeah, I think that, when you're running the ball and you think a guy hits you a little bit low, like you think he was trying to take your knee out and tear an ACL or something, it builds. And I think that when you get chippy, and you're being a competitive person, as you guys are in the ring, you're competitive, and someone's being chippy. Maybe you don't like the guy across you. He's got a lot to say, and you're on the field with him for 80 minutes. I think anybody has a threshold where as soon as you cross it, it's gonna get real. So, yeah.
Like a bench clearing ball in baseball or something, for a fact that pitcher was throwing the ball. You motherfucking run, charge the mound, both sides coming out, pretty much.
Hey, I've seen guys do illegal tackles on purpose, and everyone knew it was on purpose, and bench clearing fights happened.
Yep.
Because it was plain and simple. That was 100%. You went to drop him on the top of his head. There's no way he'd get that way unless you picked him up and dropped him on his head. We're all going to war. That does happen, and I think that I mean, it happens in baseball. You know what I mean? I mean, guys get pegged with a 98-mile-an-hour fastball into their, rib cage. They're going to be a little upset about it. And if the pitcher has a look on his face like, I don't care, don't crowd the plate, So,
yeah.
I think that for people who are not in the competitive world, it's hard for them to understand why things can get heated so fast. But that's why we have the phrase "in the heat of the moment" for a reason. And that's where I think rugby is a little unique too, because we have a thing that we call the social, which is after the game, you eat and drink with the team you played against. So a guy can punch you in the face in the bottom of a pile up, and then later on the rest of that, you step on his hand later on in the game to let him know that he ain't gonna be punching you with that hand anymore. And then at the end of the day, you're drinking a beer with him, and you got a black eye, and he's got a busted hand. So but it's all the same,
It's more like wrestling than I thought it was.
Oh, it for sure is. Trust me, for sure is. I mean, but the story I wanted him to talk about was the story about how we pranked him one day, and we it was probably like a month in, and we were all extremely tired, and he just kept pushing us. So one day we all got around him in a circle and did jumping jacks around him and got closer and closer, because we knew, he just got out of the military and everything, and we were just being dicks and was trying to piss him off. Well, the very next day at practice, he introduces this thing called figure eights to us, and it's literally running the field in a figure eight form, sprints all day. And it's not like 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6. It was to start. The warm up was 10. Then we did a full practice, and then we did another 10 right after practice. And literally we're all extremely tired, even me, and all you can hear on the sideline is, if you're walking, you're wrong. And that's all we hear repeatedly. And this guy over here just laughing his ass off, just maniacally laughing at us.
Oh, yeah.
I still have a shirt that his team made me, and I don't know where they found it. They found some picture of me from the military. I don't know where they got it. And on the bottom of it, it says, "If you're walking, you're wrong." So I still use that. I mean, I just retired, but I used it until the day I retired. If you're walking, you're wrong. But yeah, those guys, they kept pushing and pushing. So they would run pretty much 50-yard sprints. It's weird. You run in a figure eight. So you start in one corner, you sprint, then you jog down the field, then you sprint. They'd run 10 of those. And we used to call them puking parties, where there was a storm drain next to the football field, and they would all go puke over there.
I've been in a few of those.
Yeah,
I've been in a few of those.
Yeah, so I mean, we used to have those days, and but that's like you guys were talking about. I was able to narrow down the guys who really wanted to be there, and a wrestling mindset with what you guys were talking about. I had a true 18 guys and I started off with like 40. Yeah. I had like 18 guys, and those guys would play. They'd run into a brick wall and get up and run into it again. I mean, so
we weren't smart. We weren't smart at all.
Well, but there was a brotherhood. There was a brotherhood there, and we've talked about that. You guys talked about it in wrestling. When you struggle with somebody, when you bleed with somebody, it builds chemistry and brotherhood and camaraderie.
I was going to tell you guys. You guys don't know this, but my team, we only won one game our first season, and pretty much my only season. But we only won one game due to forfeit, because the other team, we literally played them that week. They were scheduled to be next week. We were supposed to go back to back, and we literally played them in a rain game. Got in a physical fight with them, hurt half the team, so they forfeited because they didn't want to play us back to back. And we got in an actual fight with them.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, the first team was gnarly, man, and we played that team, and our guys went out there, and we may have lost on the scoreboard, but they didn't have anybody left. and they didn't have the team to field for the next game. So we actually won a game because they couldn't show up.
Yep. We don't win on the scoreboard, but we win on the field.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, man, it's been a good haul. Rugby's been a great thing for me, and it's given to me more than I ever have put into it. Here I am talking with Roger 10 years later, and it definitely was an eye opener for me with the birth of his new baby girl, and here I am 10 years later looking at this, and I'm like, it really clicks when you say rugby is family, because here I am looking at his kids, and it's that next generation, and that's why we do it, right? That's why we put effort into things. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%. 100%. Well, man, I just want to thank you for joining us. It's truly been an honor to sit down with you for the last 2 hours and just kind of shoot the bull and get to learn who you are. So go ahead, tell our listeners where they can hear the Warrior Workout Network, and go ahead and plug all your socials and anything you've got coming up that you want to plug.
Well, guys, you can find us on Facebook. That's, Warrior Workout Network. We're on Facebook. We're on, if you want to listen to our podcast, we're on SoundCloud, Overcast, iTunes, CastBox. You can find us online, www.warriorworkoutnetwork.org. You can find all of our videos. We do live feeds. We'll do Facebook Lives during our interviews if you want to watch those. And you can comment to us during our podcasts, and we try to answer as much as we can as we're doing our interviews. But that's where you can find us. Thank you so much for having me here tonight, guys. It really has been a privilege.
Absolutely. Thank you for being on the show with us. Roger, anything you want to say before we get out of here today?
Man, this guy has been in my life for 10 years. He pretty much broke me from that mode, from being a little kid to being a man, by repeatedly making me throw up. But but no, he truly is like one of the greatest guys ever, like my best friend, my mentor. He's a great guy, and I love what he's doing, and I know he's just doing great things. I'm sad that he's not coaching anymore, but I understand how it is. But no, it was great that you guys got to talk to him, and our listeners get to hear his story and his mission and everything like that. It's just an amazing thing he's doing now too for everybody else.
Thanks, Roger.
Yes.
Love you, man.
Love you too, brother.
All right.
Now we got emotional there.
All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this. Well, thank you, Sean, for being with us. Thank you, Roger, for joining us. I think it's the first time Roger's joined us on an evening with, other than the something about sports episodes that we normally do. You know what? Since we're on the subject of sports, just real quick before we get out of here, who do you have in the Super Bowl this year, Sean?
Oh, man.
Got to leave on a high note.
Oh, man. That's crazy, man. There's just, oh, man. Oh, my God. I don't even know. I don't even know where to start with that because right now, I mean, there's so many teams that are, 8-3. Buffalo's doing good. I don't know, and I'm an old Bill. Buffalo. I don't know. I think something's crazy is gonna happen. I think that there's gonna be a team in there that we weren't really. Dude, and I'm not just trying to say it because we're here in Tennessee, but Tennessee sometimes shows flashes of greatness. When Derrick Henry's running the ball when he's really doing it, you're like, there's no one that's gonna be able to stop this. And the next week they lose. So I don't know, man. That's a really hard question, and I don't want to be, cliche and all that stuff. Baltimore, the Ravens, I just with the mobility at the quarterback position that they have, and the throwing down the field and the running and the defense, obviously, I would never count them out. I think that the Baltimore Ravens are always someone that you need to keep an eye on and have an ability to always make the show. That would be my biggest guess. I think that I don't care if they only had one win right now. I think that they have the ability to turn everything around, make the playoffs. I don't think the Patriots are going to be there.
Thank goodness.
I don't think the Patriots. are going to be there. In some random thing, I'd like to see Tampa Bay maybe, just to see Tom Brady be out there, just being Tom Brady, and you're like, this guy doesn't go away, man. I've been
saying that since the year 2001. He just won't go away.
No, he won't. I think Seattle's starting to fire up again. I think Seattle, that's a possibility as well. They're starting to hit on all cylinders again. They're starting to show who they are. Yeah, man.
Let's also not forget. Yeah, but let's also not forget about Pittsburgh, and let's not forget about Kansas City and New Orleans, a team that, after the way they played this past Sunday, the Cleveland Browns. There's something going on in the water there too. Anything can happen. It is the year 2020. Anything can happen. So, How
many points did they scored over 40 points on Tennessee, right?
41.
They did.
Oh yeah,
they did.
Yeah, if they have that ability on a tough defense like Tennessee, something's in the water up there, man. What's going on?
This Baker Mayfield showed up finally.
Or maybe Odell Beckham went away.
Jarvis Landry's doing his work, so
yeah, exactly.
But this is for tomorrow. This talks for tomorrow. Exactly. All
right. So again, Sean, thank you so much for being with us. Roger, thank you for being with us. We appreciate you guys. Can't wait to talk to you again. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, that has been an evening with Chip. Let's hit him with the outro.
Please do not leave without leaving a like, comment, share, and subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform.
Make sure you follow us on all of our social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Make sure you go check out our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe and click that bell to get notified of our latest videos.
I am Chip Hazard.
I am Talon Williams.
I'm Roger Sierra.
And I'm Rook.
And this is Movement Radio.
We out.